Hello everyone, this is bone video for the appendicular skeleton. The appendicular skeleton would be everything except the skull, the thoracic cage, and the vertebra. So let's get started. First would be our pectoral girdle. That would include the clavicle, which is this here. The acromial end, which is this end here, and the sternal end, which is the one closest to the sternum. The scapula. So your scapula, we know it as your shoulder blade. I'm going to show you the different areas. The coracoid process, that would be here. I don't know if you're able to see it. The coracoid process. The subscapular fossa, which would be in this area here. The glenoid cavity, which would be also in here, the glenoid cavity, the acromion, which is the one I know, which would be here, the supraspinous fossa, which would be here, the infraspinous fossa here, the sternoclavicular joint, here. So the joint that connects the sternum to the clavicle. Your acromial clavicle joint, which would connect your arm to your to the clavicle, excuse me. Next would be the arm here. So we have the humerus. I will be showing you the different areas. So let's get started. We have the head of the humerus, which would know to be this. That's the head. The greater tubercle. So that would be this here. We have the lesser tubercle, which would be back here in this area here. We have the deltoid tuberosity. On here you can barely make it out, but it's like a ridge here. Then we have the medial epicondyle, and that would be here. Then we have the lateral epicondyle, which would be this. So medial meaning closer to the medial line, lateral to the outside. The coronoid fossa, and the question is what goes here. The coronoid fossa is we would have the ulna, so the coronoid process of the ulna during flexion. So when it flexes, when it flexes in that process, we have the ulna that sits in that little notch right there. The capitulum, it says what articulates with that bone, would be the radius. So on our little skeleton we can't see it very well, but this is supposed to articulate here with that. The trochlea, it says what articulates with what bone, the ulna. So the trochlea, which would be here, we see it as a little hinge here, but it's here. it would articulate with the ulna, so it would be connected here. And the olecranon fossa, what goes here, the olecranon. So here, this is the fossa in the little notch, and this is the olecranon, the elbow. So what we know to be the elbow goes in there. So now we have the forearm here, your ulna, this one. The olecranon, which would be your elbow. The coronoid process. The coronoid process and the styloid process. So the coronoid process would be here. You can't see it, but it's here, the coronoid process, and the styloid process of the coronoid process, the styloid process of the ulna here. So the radius, now this other bone that makes up the forearm, the head at the top, the tuberosity would be the little ridge, and then the styloid process down here. Sorry, down here. Next, the carpus. So this, the carpus. Let me get my notes. So page. In our book, we have a wonderful little, because on the hand you can't really make out the different bones. It's hard to tell, but on our textbook we have this wonderful page that is very detailed, and it explains very well. We have the carpus. It says the proximal row, which would be here, and then we have the it says lateral to medial. So we have the scaphoid, the lunate, the scaphoid, the lunate, the trichetral, and the pisiform. The distal row would be the trapezium, the trapezoid, the capitate, and the hamate. It says which bones form the wrist joint with what forearm bone. So it's the radius, and that would be the the forearm bone, and then the other bones from the hand to form the wrist bone would be the scaphoid and the lunate in this area. Which bones form the joint with the pollex? So as we remember, the pollex is our thumb. That would be the trapezium and metacarpal one to form the pollex, the joint. Point out the metacarpals and the phalanges. So metacarpals would be here, and then your phalanges would be here. The pelvic girdle. So now we're here. The pelvic girdle is another attachment point for the lower appendages. It says the coxal bones. Let me get to my notes again on our wonderful textbook. So it says, point out the approximate borders of the three bones that fuse during development of the skeleton to form the coxal bones. So you have your ilium, your pubis, and your ischium. So your ilium is here, your pubis is here, and your ischium would be here. Then we'll go into detail on the joint. So the acetabulum would be this little notch in here. The pubic symphysis, so would be this, you can't tell, but in this area the pubic symphysis would be there. We have the Obturator foramen. Obturator foramen. I'm sorry. The iliac crest. That one would be here. This is our iliac crest. The anterior superior iliac spine, which would be this here. Our iliac fossa, this here. Our greater sciatic notch. Greater sciatic notch. Can't tell here. So the greater sciatic notch, I can't show it to you very well in here, but on our book again, the sciatic notch, it's here, the greater sciatic notch. The ischial spine would be here. The ischial tuberosity here. Next, the femur. So the femur, we know it to be the biggest bone in the body. We have the head, of course, would be the top part, which is here. This is the neck. The greater trochanter, that would be here. The lesser trochanter would be this here. The adductor tubercle would be here. The medial epicondyle here on this side, because it's closer, and the lateral would be on this side. So the medial condyle, lateral on the outside. The medial, or actually the patella, which is here, the kneecap. Next we have the tibia. So that would be the leg. On the tibia we have the medial and lateral condyles. So that would be, medial and lateral. We have the tibial tuberosity, which would be the ridge. The medial malleolus, would be down here, medial malleolus, and then your lateral malleolus would be on the outside of the fibula. Your proximal and distal tibiofibular joints. So the joints would be what connect here. So the fibula, the head, on the top again, and the lateral malleolus on the outside here. The tarsus, what bones does it articulate with? So for the talus. So the talus, here on the picture in our book, the talus is this area here. The calcaneus here, the cuboid here, the navicular here, the medial intermediate and lateral cuneiform bones. So medial intermediate lateral. Metatarsus here, and the phalanges here. Your hallux, of course, our big toe. And that is all for our appendicular bone video.